Have to check out what's new. I don't think there's actually anything new. Can you be too old for a rave? Not really, no. Yeah, here's one of my favorite wildly unexpected but works rave mashup. Generating. Well, that's no good. Let me see if I have the file for it anywhere. Yes, yes, I do. Yes. That's what we've been talking about for the past few minutes. Late pre-office hour was because you were changing titles for songs to reflect what you like and dislike about each version. House show bootleg version. Our wizards rule. Yes. I did not expect 100 Gex and Bloodstained Child to mix well, but they somehow did. Your friend knows Gex? Nice. I actually went to the same school at the same time as one of them and was probably in the same building as them for most of the time. So there's a chance that I know, at least in passing, more or less. Also, could someone get a copy paste ready for all the people asking about audio? It seems mixed for everyone at the moment. Our office hours today, yes. When David gets here. Which usually when I start talking about when David gets here is about when he gets here, and then I have to stop saying that. So we'll see what happens. 7 him on time. Hmm. And there he is. And there he isn't. And there he is. Hello.
You have to leave and rejoin. It sounds like you could hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm echoing, unfortunately. Right. Throwing out the message. Let me know how it's going. I'll start in a second.
All right, looks like we're about leveled up.
Right. Thank you for coming to today's weekly office hours. We do them every week. Wednesdays, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Basically, what we do is we talk about what we're working on and what we're thinking about, and then we take questions. So let's get started. I think the main things we're working on right now are bringing social creation to the website, which which we're now testing with the guides and mods, and I think they're fairly positive. And there's certain elements that are a little raw about it, but I think it's sort of net good. So we're going to try to move it to the 10K club or the super user club in some way. I think we're trying to get all the access permissions and ways of figuring out how to roll things out. So they're now moving towards testing that with a larger group of people. I think that'll be pretty cool. We're going to have these sort of like group creation rooms on the website, and we'll start off with a very small number of rooms, just so we can kind of compress people into denser areas, so we can kind of watch things and see how it's working and kind of make sure there's like, a lot of people in it, which stress tests the system. And then we'll eventually open it up so anybody can create their own spaces for just themselves or their friends or things like that. And then there'll be a lot of them. But we'll kind of start off with sort of these denser spaces, and we'll go to stuff that's more sparse. Just because if we go to sparse, there'll be 1,000 rooms and it'll be hard to actually watch everything. But I can know if it's going okay for people. But if there's only like a couple, then it's really easy to kind of have eyes on it and see how things are going. So yeah, hopefully that'll roll out. relatively soon. We've been pretty bad at predicting timelines lately. I think it's just that like we kind of have the ability to either work on one thing quickly or many things slowly. And I think right now there is not like one obvious thing that everybody should be working on. So we kind of take the top 5 things and we kind of break the teams off into doing those 5 things. But then the things do go slower and are harder to predict because as there are fewer people working on a problem, like if someone's sick or someone goes on vacation, it does have like a much bigger effect on things. And so it does. It's definitely a little unfortunate how we have so many things to work on and we don't quite have enough people to do all the things. But we are trying to do more than one thing right now, and we are making progress on all the things. The next things that are probably the highest priority is going to be an update, which will have personalization of the image models, and that will kind of change things. It changes the biases. It's not really about the style, it's more about the bias. So whenever you ask it for like a cat or a dog or something really vague, it kind of fills in a lot of gaps based off its biases that it's learned from all the users, kind of the average of all the users. And instead, it's going to start trying to adapt to your biases. In the testing, we find pretty much 100% of people prefer the results from that. And we're working rolling that out. I think we're kind of trying to do some last tuning, make sure it gets data from as many places as possible, so it's as easy as possible to have enough data on you to do the stuff and then to update constantly. It's not going to be on by default. You'll be able to turn it on and turn it off. And we're also trying to make it so people can kind of share the personalization from each other. So that also is taking a little longer, but that will be cool. And so very excited about that. It's a pretty big difference in how things work, and I think it definitely makes Midjourney way more diverse in a way that people have been wanting for a really long time. That's probably the thing I'm looking most forward to right now. Although the groups actually I'm looking forward to a lot too. So those are two huge things. The next stuff is related to update, which we'll probably call 6.1, which will improve the hands and bodies and text and hopefully small pixel artifacts too. Those are moving along. They seem to be working. We're in kind of the tuning phase, trying to eke as much performance out of them as we can. And then we're going to integrate the 2 different changes together. One is for the pixel sort of glitch, like little pixel artifacts, and the one's for the coherence and text. And so we'll put all those together into a single release, and then we'll probably call it 6.1. I don't know if we'll end up like officially marking 6.0 as like beta, or if we'll just like do 6.1 and call that beta. Probably should have done 6.0 as beta, but we just kind of haven't. So I apologize for that, I guess. But feels like 6.1 is going to be more of like the version, like the sort of the more like workhorse version. It'll also be a bit faster. We have some speed improvements that make things faster across the board. So we'll probably get that in too. So a bunch of things we're kind of wrapping up for sort of a 6.1 release. Wanted to do more updates on improving the default aesthetic, but it's been hard to get the default aesthetic better across the board without it hurting other things. So I think in V7 we have a pretty good plan on how to improve that default aesthetic, but I think for V6 we're going to kind of move to personalization and then move on to V7. Let's see. Is multiple people having a hard time hearing me?
It seems like it's an issue specifically on mobile.
I'm sorry, everyone. Moral of the story is don't use your phone, use your PC, I guess. Yeah, it's hard to say exactly if personalization is part of 6.1 or if 6. I mean, it works with 6.0, so we'll probably make it work with that. I don't really know. It's kind of hard to predict when each of these things are happening, to be honest. But they're all being worked on right now, and they're all moving along and close to being released. And the exact days on the release are hard to pin down. I've been kind of messaging people today and saying like, hey, let's set specific goals on each of these features so we can start to schedule things together better. And so we're gonna start to try to do that. But I think we've been not great at that this month for some reason. But I think it's okay. Sometimes in order to make something new, you gotta wander a little, and wandering sometimes is hard to plan. And so, I think that's okay. Sometimes just in software, timelines are notoriously challenging in general because you're kind of asking somebody like, how long is it going to take to climb that mountain that you've never climbed? When you build a new piece of software, it's this thing you haven't done it before. How do you know how long it's going to take? And so, it's sort of a notorious thing. It's not really just us. So, yeah. If it's really simple, like you're just trying to lay down a bunch of bricks or something, then it's kind of the same. Like one brick is just like two bricks is like three bricks. But software is just hard like this, and so everyone is starting to get the first hand experience of the unpredictability of software development. There's also research too. There's also kind of research also can be hard because it's like, how long does it take to figure something out? It's like, I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. But the important thing is that all of the stuff are moving and there doesn't appear to be any problems. Um, and yeah. What else is going on? V7 is moving along. It's also going a bit slower than we thought because we've been kind of changing our plans and making things better. One thing for sure is V7 should be really, really, really good. Um, there's definitely a huge level of performance beyond V6, probably 2 levels. And so we're very optimistic about that. We're going to do a caption party where people caption images, hopefully in the next week or so. And there'll be 2 stages of that. First, we'll show you random images and ask you to caption them, like describe them. And then we'll ask you to rate other people's descriptions of images. And then using that, we will create some new algorithms that will help us estimate the quality of a caption and better make captions. And captions are really important for the training of the model because most images on the internet don't have captions. And so we caption them to try to establish a link between the image and language. So we'll ask you just to make a really long descriptive caption, not necessarily in the style of the Midjourney one, but just whatever you think is right. And then we'll have people rate each other's captions, and that'll give us a sense of both a lot of captions and what makes a good caption. Yep. I think V7 will be better in every way. It'll be much better at prompts, much more coherent, probably better at big batches of images and different resolutions and upscalers and better style. Should do everything a lot better. V7 will be pretty intense. Yeah, we have also been working on some video generation, but we've had some compute limitations on processing the data. Seems like a lot of people are processing video data right now, so some of the computers that are good for that have been a little bit in short supply. But we're getting more computers to process data. And the video stuff definitely works, but I think we're gonna take our time and make it really good rather than try to push something out there that's kind of mediocre, like what most of the other companies have on market right now. And yeah, the Niji team is mostly working on video related things right now. I think they feel like that Niji is mostly like they're the Niji will get better with V7 sort of automatically. And so they feel like the next biggest thing is going to be related to doing anime video. Anime video is going to be a lot easier than photographic video, so it should be really good. What else? We've been tweaking the algorithms on the sort of idea ranking page. And things are going to move around a little bit as we try to figure out like the best way to actually take the scores into account. There's lots of ways to actually use the scores that people are giving it to try to then rank the images, to rank the features. But so we're trying to figure that out. And so as part of that, I am going to show off. How do I do this? Can I do that? Yeah, I can do that. I'm going to show off some stuff. Going to do a screen share. Screen share. Where's the screen share? 1 second. Trying to find the way to share the screen. I'm just going to share the entire screen. And yeah, okay. Going live. We're going live. Can everyone see it? Yes. All right. So we have a lot of features, and this is what people have been ranking. It's like 140 feet, 125 it looks like. And then we were breaking the features out into different ways of looking at them. So the first thing we can do is we can, I mean, we could just like we can basically just do the average, but then we want to kind of look at the different like actual demographics. So we split the votes down by region, like Europe, America, North America, Asia, because that's where there are people in other continents, but not enough to make good statistical estimations. And then we broke things down by male and female, just based off of like first name. We can kind of guess we can guess like 80% accurate, I think, what the gender is from the first name of a person. And then we broke it down by plans. And so we can kind of see, we were kind of looking, actually, it's kind of interesting. For a while, the making nudity stuff was very highly ranked. Here, if we just rank by America, you see it's like a number 6 and number 7. So we improve hands and fingers, more accurate prompt understanding, multiple consistent characters in an image. Those were all very consistent between all the regions. But then the second you kind of got to the nudity stuff, it got really different depending on your demographics, which is what we'd been expecting for a long time. One of the things that was kind of cool, just kind of looking at the nudity thing, is that between North America and Europe, people were pretty similarly interested in nudity. Although apparently the Americans were slightly more interested in artistic nudity than Europe, which was interesting because I guess all the artistic nudity comes from Europe. But then what we saw that was sort of interesting was the second we went to Asia. Asia then ranked the nudity by a factor of 3 to 4x more. So Asia really wanted nudity. They want full not safe for work content 50% more than they just want artistic nudity. So you can kind of see some difference there. So like what is the nudity for? And then when we go between men and women, we see that the men seem to want the not safe for work content 3.1 times more than the women, and that they want the artistic nudity 2.6 times more than the women. So it looks like we've always been trying to figure out like who is really pushing for nudity so hard all the time. I actually thought it was mostly European men, but it looks like it's not European men. I was wrong. I'm sorry, European men. Apparently, it's mostly men in Asia and men in general. So, yeah, men in general and men in Asia. So you can see that this is an interesting example of a feature which some people really, really want, but that affects like people differently depending on who you are. So it seems like it affects men differently than it affects women, and men want it more than women. And maybe we shouldn't necessarily have a pure tyranny of the majority here, because what might be good for one might be bad for another. So we added negative ranking recently too. So you could put negative points into things, but you still only get 25 points. And then we saw similarly a lot of people putting negatives into the artistic nudity because they felt like it would sort of actively hurt them, and they were willing to sacrifice their points elsewhere to communicate that. So that was interesting. It's kind of cool actually is to then sort the list by women instead of by male. So like if only women got to decide what Midjourney worked on, what would it be? The hands and fingers, small faces, arms and legs, multiple consistent characters, more accurate prompt rendering. Honestly, this is a pretty good list. Maybe we'll just let women control Midjourney from now on. Sorry, dudes. Uh, yeah, and then you don't actually get to nudity until number 38. Um, although let's try looking at it by some other things. Let's sort it by the pro plan. So if we sort of only let the most expensive plans decide things, then we get similar stuff: hands and fingers, small faces, multiple subjects, arms and legs. They actually seem to rate some of these things. So the things that they tend to go higher is they want to be able to move the camera around a generated scene. That's kind of like the 3D Midjourney. And then they want to be able to what else? Better rendering of multiple subjects. So those are kind of things. If we go by basic plan, what are the basic plan people want? Pretty similar stuff, actually. So nothing too surprising. And so when you kind of sort by most of the other plans, everything but the standard plan, everyone wants nudity again. And so it seems like there's something about, I think the men and the males and Asia, there's like slightly more standard plans. So that kind of ends up just being the same as the Asia one, which is interesting. I don't know what's going on there. What we can do is we can just sort it by the minimum. So basically, what's the minimum score between all the demographics? So this kind of removes the biases. So in this case, like it would go with women on this, basic plan on this, Europeans on this, and you kind of get something similar. We rank it by Europe too. You get something similar. The nudity goes a little bit higher, but generally we see that the sort of top things are pretty consistent. We can do other things here, so we can look at the I like this one. The male to female utility score, the female to male. So like what do women want more than men? They want vector images and hex code for colors, looping animations. So it's kind of interesting, right? And then if we flip to the male to female utility, then you get the nudity. So the dudes just want to see boobs, and the girls want to do better colors. Yeah. And then we can do this other cool one where we kind of guess the engineering hours for different items, and then we can sort things to see what has the highest value per engineering hour. And then we get very different stuff. We get a lot of the web features, actually. Did I mess up? Okay, this column is just wrong. I don't know what happened there. Yeah, then you get a lot of we get a lot of the web features. So the web features are being ranked more lowly in general, but they also tend to be a lot easier to do. So even though the web features are being ranked low, they have a high value per effort, which is pretty cool to see. Improving the hands and fingers actually ranks really high because it's both really important and also we have a pretty clear way to do it. So that kind of helped motivate the improved hands and fingers and bodies and text stuff. So we were thinking of just leaving that to V7, but we decided not to because of how it got ranked on here. We were also going to leave some of the pixel artifact stuff similarly to V7, but it ranked really high. So, already this is affecting how we're doing our stuff. Some of these are already aligned with V7, but some of these are things we could do in V6, so we'll try to do them sooner. Yeah. So this is a little bit about how we're looking at things. It's actually a bit of a joke among technology companies that like middle-aged dudes or older dudes are just like really hard to make happy, that no matter what, they're kind of unhappy people, and that old women are the ones who are best to ask. They're like, yeah, older women, they're always really nice and they always have really clear like priorities. So there's actually like a joke in the technology industry that you should just let like older women basically be in charge of all product development, which is kind of funny. I never made that up. I just heard that from somebody. And I thought that was really funny, and I didn't really get it. But then I kind of saw this, and I got it a little better. And so I thought that was really interesting. So yeah, and so I think everybody lately. There's been a bunch of people lately who are expressing a lot of anger in different channels about how like, how dare you, David, not work on a feature for me? I want my feature. And I just kind of have to say, like, look, bro, we have a lot of features for a lot of people, and really everyone is really different here, and we can't work on everything. There's literally more features that people want us to do than there are people in, like, literally than there are people at the in the research lab. And so it's hard enough to work on it's hard enough to do more than one thing at a time, let alone 100 things at a time. At the end of the day, we can maybe only work on a few things. So, you kind of have to just understand that we're trying to do our best to optimize for everyone rather than trying to optimize for whoever is like loud and angry and righteous. So, I think that if we kind of just, yeah, uh, I don't, yeah. And we are doing our best there. I think we're basically building entirely new stuff. Like this is like this sort of thing I was showing off was sort of entirely new things. We're building entirely new algorithms to try to understand what people care about and what we should be working on. And we talk to everybody every week, and we care a lot. However, no matter how much we care, we're never going to be able to make everyone happy. So all we can do is try to do the few things we can that will be best for everyone. And we don't really want to do anything, even if and we want to be careful. So like even if there's like 20% of people who feel really strongly about something, but then another 20% of people who would feel bad about it, then that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the right thing to do. So definitely we appreciate feedback. We appreciate more than feedback. We appreciate ideas. Like it doesn't help me when someone's like, your website sucks, you're slow. If people instead are like, hey, I really think that the website should consider this feature, or I think that, I see that there's a problem here, and here's a way that you could potentially do it. Yeah, that is really helpful. But like anger, right? It just sort of anger is not a thing that solves problems. Yeah. So I don't know what to do about it when people get really angry in the channels. Like I've been trying to be nice lately and go and like explain things back to them. But sometimes what's been happening is as I talk to people who are angry, they just get more angry, and more people think that because I'm listening to them, that if they yell at me enough, I'll listen. And so I kind of have to say that's not how it's going to work. And yeah, I don't know. At some point, I might just start like changing my approach, but I haven't quite figured it out. So for the day, we just want to like showing off a list, kind of explaining what we think about things. So when people submit ideas right now, we look at them and we try to add them to the list, and then we let people vote on them, and try to figure things out. So I think we're making good progress there. Yeah, and so it is affecting us already. So I think the previous lists that we saw ranked consistent character and consistent style stuff highly, and so that's why we shipped those features this last month. And then this feature, this new list is ranking the hands and coherent stuff and more, and so that's why we're working on that right now. So I would say we're putting like a good bit of resources into the things that seem to be consistently on these lists, and so we'll see how that works, and that's kind of the plan to keep going. Yeah. So with that, I think we're ready for the first lightning round. So you can put your questions in the VC text channel, and I will start to answer them. gonna wait a second. So the current personalization is going to use a combination of the image rankings and then favorites on Explore. It takes about 200 rankings right now to kind of converge. So we'll, encourage people ahead of time to get some ranking in. You get a free hour right now for ranking right now. So go ahead and do it. If you rank enough, yep. Personalization will probably be different for every version for V6 versus V7. Not planning on doing any audio or music. Maybe some audio background saying, but hopefully not. I would like, if I could avoid those things, I would avoid them entirely, personally. Other people are working on it, doing a good job. Audio visualization would be cool. I had to change my name. I don't know. Niji animation, hard to say. You good, bro? I don't use bro very often, so it's kind of funny when I use it. I'm kind of trying to make an emphasis on a certain type of behavior, but yeah. You will be able to create private rooms in the future website. I've not talked to John Carmack lately. We don't actually ban any words. We sort of ban the language model looks at it and tries to make a judgment. Oh, we're gonna try to do style random soon. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. It's also been going slow. We're kind of working on too many things, but I think there'll be a random style system soon. That'll be fun. We definitely are hiring more people, but it's hard because we need some pretty specific skill sets. Um, we're going to collect our own 3D data. V6, V7 will definitely be better at pixel art. It's possible V6 will get better at pixel art too, with the update for 6.1, but hard to say. Favorite mythological creature? I guess I'm kind of basic. Probably just like dragon. Or there's like an ancient Chinese one called Peng, and uh, the bird Peng and the fish. I can't remember the fish name. There's a bird and a fish that I like a lot. Oh my god, I can't believe I can't remember the name. Yeah, Kun and Peng. Kun and Peng. I don't know how to say it. Um, why do you keep your team small and focused? So if you've never built a team before, it seems like you can just hire more people and get more stuff done. But very often in practice, it's not actually how it works. Very often, like if you hire 10 times as many people, you get twice as much done. So it's like once you get past like 50 people, it just becomes really, really hard to get more done. We could make a thing that textures 3D models. We'll probably make a thing that does 3D stuff. 3D is going, but it's in the data collection phase right now. I think 3D might come out before video. I don't understand why am I suffering on my Midjourney art model? I don't understand what that means. Blending two images kind of blends them in the vector space that represents the images. So it's kind of taking some high dimensional representation of the images that aren't words and blending them together. To the data collection phase comes the training phase. I don't think we're going to ever do music. I think that there are a lot of other people working on music, and we don't really have anything to add there necessarily. I mean, we could do things good, but I don't, just because we can do things doesn't mean we should do things. I'm trying to focus on things that sort of won't happen unless we do them. So like, I don't think that like personalizing the model to every single user, I think is a great example of something that's really hard to do. And no one else would ever do it if we didn't do it, I think. So there's a lot of things like that. Yeah, there's this idea like 8 women can't make a baby in 1 month. So it's like very often when you have a project you're trying to do, adding more people doesn't help. It just takes a certain amount of time. So yeah, it's a combination of like the overhead of multiple people working together as well as sort of the maximum speed that a given project can go. Um, yeah. We are thinking of doing an API for getting data at some point. If you want to like get like data on your images, we thought about doing an API for personal image generation, like for but we are very unlikely to do an API for a while that is specifically for commercial stuff because if the second we sort of do commercial APIs, we think we kind of see a lot of like tasteless bad stuff basically being made where everyone's trying to basically make as much money as possible. I mean, there's like this whole thing where like we're not really here just to make money. And so if we make an API that lets anybody do anything they want, then basically everybody else gets to try to, use our technology to make money in whatever tasteless ways they can. So yeah, I'm not really I think we're not gonna have like a commercial API outside of maybe a few specific partners until we probably get to something that's closer to like the real-time 3D engine. Um, yeah. Um, so I mean the website's moving along. Hopefully in the next month or so, we're going to be opening up the website to more and more people. We do have a hardware team now, so we're like playing with different hardware prototypes of things. Not really talking about too much there yet, except for we're building some hardware to capture data for the 3D model. But we're going to build more hardware too, and very likely one day you'll be able to buy some kind of Midjourney hardware. But we don't know exactly what it is yet, but I think there's going to be like cool opportunities related to the future of computing and AI and hardware. Um, we're also working on these collective intelligence tools, which is sort of the way of using the intelligence of many people to figure stuff out. So, the ideal leaderboard is a great example of something that we are doing right now. That is sort of a new technology to try to leverage people to figure out what to do. I think we're gonna also have more tools like that, and eventually we're gonna offer them externally too. Um, we don't do sprints or any normal. We have like very little management structure, but I think that is generally okay at our size and for the types of things we're doing. Um, and let's see what else people are. There are no difference in the algorithms for relax and fast are the same. So we'll just relax. Fast tries to make sure you have a computer as quickly as possible, and relax looks for sort of a machine that maybe isn't being used as much. The randomized thing is not that random. There's like a pool of images for the random on the website. It could be better. There's like careers, I think, at midjourney.com email. We're not hiring, yeah. We definitely want to hire more people. It is relatively hard to get in right now just because we don't have people who are like constantly interviewing. It's like, I almost sneezed. Couldn't quite sneeze. Ah, there we go. Any vary region after upscale. Well, vary region doesn't work on really high resolution images right now, so I think that's the main reason why we don't do it. Maybe it could. That's an interesting idea. When you do the 25-point rankings, it's relative to the ones on the page. It doesn't really take any other things into account. I don't think we're gonna do art exhibitions. Yeah, I don't think Midjourney is about art, it's about imagination. And we can use our imaginations for many things, and sometimes we use it for art. But I think that that's really hard for people to understand. So I have to be careful in doing things that are sort of explicitly art, like an art exhibition, because then people will, I think, forget that core message. Let's see. Um, yeah. I mean, there are a lot of Midjourney features we could do, like layers and transparency and things like that. We're not as focused on those things right now because they're definitely more niche commercial tools. We might eventually do stuff like that, but um, yeah. We're gonna try to have bigger batches for V7, but if we keep failing at doing that whenever we try, but hopefully we'll get it out there. There aren't that many, yeah. Okay, I think we're starting to peter out. Will I be able to do blending with sref? I don't know what that means, sorry. The multiple character consistency thing is probably a long way out. We don't really have a specific plan for that right now. So it's probably like after V7. Yeah, we do prefer batch 64. We are going to do more native apps. We're going to try to make 3D and video affordable, but right now the video stuff is very expensive. Definitely sref and cref will improve. I don't think we have a timeline for NSFW content. In general, like, is that I'm not really here to make money, so I'm not going to make boobs just so I can make money. I think there's an argument that, like, you could probably do nudity in some way that would be net good, like culturally and for society, but you know, in general, I think there's a lot of other things I can add to the world right now, so it's definitely not that high up my list. And I think, yeah, there are other things I am more thought about. Yeah. Um, Specific features you want, throw them in the ideas and feedback right now. Um, but in general, I think it's going to take us a while to catch up on sort of the tiny features on the website. Like there's 100 small features on the website that we could do that are definitely good ideas. But we don't really have people to work on that right now, so we're kind of working on bigger features. And then after the bigger features are gone, we'll start working on the smaller stuff again. Um, okay, I think we're starting to peter off. Why? Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of people don't want any social interaction with anybody else on Midjourney. So there's like definitely like two types of people. There's like some people who, yeah, they want to never interact with a human, and then there's some people who want to interact with people. And so um, yeah, I mean, I find that the people who maybe don't want to interact with anybody else on Midjourney tend to be people who are like in a professional industry and already have tons of art people around them all the time. Um, but a lot of people on here are pretty regular people, and Midjourney is a huge creative community for them, like a kind of a family for them, and it's very important to them. Demographically, we tend to find like older men don't want community stuff, and then we tend to find that younger people or women do prefer the community stuff. And so we have to be a little careful that we aren't like basically letting older men make all the decisions about everything, and then the product becomes something that's only ever used by older men. So, um, yeah, I'm not discriminating against older men. I think it's just one of those things where it's good to it's good to try to make something that, more people like, um, rather than going to sort of thing that's hyper narrow. Um, yeah. There are more men than women on Midjourney right now, but I think one of the problems is that we have like I think that like our aesthetics, for example, which are kind of determined by the community, are being kind of pulled towards the sort of like 40-year-old male aesthetic, and then um, basically it's actually pushing women and like out. So um, yeah, so like the median age I think is like 38 on Midjourney. So if you're above 38, you're older than half the users, and if you're under 38, you're younger than half the users. So what that means is that basically, yeah, we can definitely feel the number of women have like the ratio of women have definitely dropped lower over time, and I think that that's partially because the aesthetics keep kind of skewing more and more male, uh, and so I think we have to be very careful about that. So we um, basically um, we have a lot of feedback loops, and we want to be careful that the feedback loops don't sort of hyper optimize for one demographic and push everybody else out. So basically, some of the things we're going to do are going to be things that fewer people use, and I know that that might seem unfair because they'll be like, I'm a fewer person, do something for me. I think we're going to do things for fewer people when we see it as sort of more aspirational, like we would like there to be more women, we would like there to be more young people on the platform, and making things having more ways of making stuff together is in the interest of that. Similarly, we want to do uh, personalization to help de-skew it from being a male aesthetic. And so we're doing a lot of things to try to make it sort of not, yeah, not like collapse to a single group of people. Yeah, if we like, yeah. Um, so cool. Let's take some voices. We're gonna move off. People can raise their hand. We'll put you on stage, and I'll do a few people on stage, and then we'll do one more lightning round, and then we'll call it a day.
Hello.
Hello.